Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another short story discussion. Today's short story discussion comes to us from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a very old man with enormous wings. So, what happens in this short story? It was raining for days. So bad it was raining that Paleo had to keep removing crabs from his flooded house in order to attempt to keep his sick baby safe and rehabilitate her from her sickness when he finds a very old man with enormous wings face down in the mud. Everyone just sort of figures that old man is an angel, but they have no way to communicate. So they summon Father Gonzaga from the Sweet 16, who is not quite so sure of angelic status. Against his wishes, word is spread before he can get confirmation on whether or not the very old man with enormous wings is, in fact, an angel. And the town, because of the word spreading on the fact that they have an angel, becomes something of an attraction, and then becomes an attraction for all sorts of traveling acts, until eventually the supposed angel's fame is usurped by a girl turned into a giant spider because she disobeyed her parents. Eventually, the old man begins to feel more spry, and his wings, which have molted, begin growing feathers back until one day he just goes ahead and flies away. Give me 1 second. I messed up my notes here. Okay, so this is oftentimes one of the most pointed to examples of magical realism, and I'm going to read from my Dictionary of Literary and Thematic Terms from Edward Quinn, the definition here of magical realism. A term referring to fiction that integrates realistic elements with supernatural or fantastic experiences. The term was originally used in the 1920s in art circles in Europe and America to describe a kind of realist painting less interested in representing the art object than in capturing its aura, as, for example, in the paintings of Henri Rousseau. Latin American writers later employed the term to characterize the, quote, marvelous real, end quote, seeing everyday life as if for the first time. The most celebrated example of magical realism is Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, 1971, an extraordinary blend of realism, myth, comedy, and history, rendered in lush, poetic language. Other sources of magical realism are the stories of Jorge Luis Borges, Mario Vargas Llosa, or the double L is Y, right? Llosa? And Julio Cortázar. The technique is artfully represented in European literature by Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, 1984. In American literature, magical realism, evident earlier in stories of Bernard Malamud and John Cheever's short story The Enormous Radio, has become a prominent feature in contemporary works by Toni Morrison, Beloved, 1987, Donald Bartholomew, The Dead Father, 1975, Alice Walker, The Color Purple, 1982, and William Kennedy, Quinn's Book, 1988. The appeal of magical realism lies in its effective resolution of the tension between realism and experimentation, overcoming the limitation of the former with providing an anchor for the latter. So basically, one thing that I want to say about magical realism is I think that this is more well represented in American literature than it is in American books or United States literature, more than it is in United States books or short stories. Predominance of this audience is from the United States. So I'm going to make that statement and now clarify it. What I mean by that is I think that most comic books would be rightly classified as magical realism. What is Superman if not a magical being planted firmly within the real world? What are the X-Men if not Angel from the X-Men is a regular guy with enormous wings? Right, so I think that for some reason in the United States, much of the magical realism movement was lost and gifted to a younger readership. And it's phenomenal, and I don't mean phenomenal isn't great, I mean phenomenal isn't just sort of the phenomenon of it. It is phenomenal through the immense audience that those types of stories have today. They really captured generations of United States citizens, but they were not allowed to be classified as literature. So when you think of something like Star Wars, often misclassified as sci-fi, it's fantasy. It is fantasy with bits of science in there, like the fact that they have jetpacks and things, that they have, I think a lot of the Star Wars phenomenon is reverse engineered from originally saying, why don't we put a jetpack on him? Then it's reverse engineered how it works. But that's fantasy. That is not science fiction. That's fantasy, which is obviously massive in the United States and worldwide. But the idea of comic book characters really has gone overlooked as, I think overlooked, as magical realism in the United States, and now on a world scale. The next thing I want to talk about here, page 295. Oh, 295 in my book, literature. It's not going to be 295 wherever you found this short story, probably. But there's a quote on what is the second page of the short story for me. Then they felt magnanimous and decided to put the angel on a raft with fresh water and provisions for 3 days and leave him to his fate on the high seas. But when they went out into the courtyard with the first light of dawn, they found the whole neighborhood in front of the chicken coop having fun with the angel. Without the slightest reverence, tossing him things to eat through the opening in the wire as if he weren't a supernatural creature, but a circus animal. Father Gonzaga arrived before 7 o'clock, alarmed at the strange news. By that time, onlookers, less frivolous than those at dawn, had arrived, and they were making all kinds of conjectures concerning the captive's future. The simplest among them thought that he should be named mayor of the world. Others, of sterner mind, felt that he should be promoted to the rank of 5-star general in order to win all the wars. Some visionaries hoped that he could be put to stud in order to implant on Earth a race of winged wise men, who could take charge of the universe. I should mention very quickly, this is translated by Gregory Rabassa in 1971. Small note, angels having babies with people, that's Nephilim. It's in Genesis, I believe. It's already been done, and it's a real problem. So you shouldn't do that one, guys. But what a strange menagerie of conclusions that everyone had for this angel as he had popped up. He should be the mayor of the world. He should be a 5-star general so we never lose a war. He should be put to stud, having all the sex with all the women to give them all the babies so that we can have a new magical race entirely. The pacing of this short story is more magical to me even than the appearance of an angel, because the way, and obviously, this is translated, but the way that Gabriel Garcia Marquez introduces ideas, introduces variations of the idea, then sweeps them aside to move forward, is something that normally would bother me. but somehow it is done so well in the short story as to be sort of, I don't want to say stream of consciousness, but it feels like a stream of collective consciousness, if that makes any sense. The first thing that's really sort of troubling about this short story to me is the fact that the assumption is made, once assuming that this creature, this individual, is an angel, the assumption is then made that the angel is present in order to take the child. We don't know that, especially when the doubt is raised by Father Gonzaga that this is even an angel of the Lord. Perhaps this is a demon, a devil, a jinn, maybe. If it is an angel of the Lord and the angel is there to take the baby, oh yeah, shepherd it out, right? If God's there to take the baby, maybe the baby needs to be taken. If it's a demon, if it's a devil, if it's a jinn, maybe not. Maybe you don't want that angel taking the baby. Instead, they pick the middle road, assume it's an angel, and then cage it so that it can't take the baby. Then the baby has a recovery, but it is strange that the assumption was made that the angel is there in order to take the baby. I thought that was very strange. Another thing, slightly before that in the story, the assumption is made that it is a baby, or an angel, a baby. That baby was not a baby. That was just an assumption. The assumption is made that the creature, the individual, is an angel. Not just some guy, some weird guy speaking a strange language with wings. Later it is conjectured, perhaps he's just Norwegian, right? But this is something that the characters do based on intuition. They are Christian. They have read of angels. So apparently they forgot about Genesis. But in their folly, perhaps, they just assume that it's an angel. What common anomalies, and this is an anomaly that they assume they are susceptible to this assumption based on their religion, based on something which is very much a part of them. They identify as Christian, they see something that looks like what they imagine an angel would be, and they assume, yeah, that's an angel. What are the things that you might fall victim to via assumption, magical things based on social conditioning? What things, if you saw, what weird things, if you saw, would you just be susceptible to them? One thing that we have sort of going on in the world today is everyone seeing these tic-tac spaceships and assume, yeah, that's an alien. Because we have ET, because we've got all of this social conditioning that aliens are real, instead of thinking, holy shit, the Chinese really have something that they can do something to us with. The Chinese have this terrifying technology. We just assume, oh, hey, that must be an alien. So it is strange to step back and wonder what these things are to which we might be susceptible, or you on an individual basis. Bigfoot, for me, I would definitely be susceptible to Bigfoot being found. So that is all I have for this short story discussion over Gabriel Garcia Marquez as A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. If you like this sort of thing, it really does help me out here on the channel if you hit that like button. Subscribe if you were here by chance and not design, and I hope to see you in the next video here on Stripped Cover Lit.